Welcome to Timeless Wisdom with Dennis Prager. Hear thousands of hours of Dennis's lectures, courses, and classic radio programs. And to purchase Dennis Prager's Rational Bibles, go to DennisPrager.com.
All righty, my friends, you are listening to the Dennis Prager Show, a show where we truly talk about everything in life. And this one of my favorite subjects, male-female differences, I want to talk to you about. There's an article, and I want to thank those who sent this to me. I would not have seen it otherwise. There is a study, well, first of all, a report that just came out in New Scientist, which is a sophisticated journal, a popular but sophisticated journal about science news. And I read to you from Asian News International that has made this report from newscientist.com widely available on the Internet. Psychologists in Canada finally proved that men are actually irrational enough to risk entire kingdoms to catch sight of a pretty face. All right. According to a report in newscientist.com, biologists have long known that men, like animals, and I'm going to talk to you about this like animals thing, because a very important little throwaway line that they did not develop here, prefer immediate rewards to long-term benefits in the future. The process is known as discounting the future. Immediately available cash is generally worth more than the same amount that would be in the future. But greater amounts of money in the future would be worth waiting for under so-called rational discounting. However, some people, like drug addicts, exhibit irrational discounting when it comes to choosing a small amount of heroin today rather than a greater amount in the future. Margot Wilson and Martin Daly of McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario, decided to investigate discounting behavior and see if it varied with sexual mood. This is a good study. Listen to this. Male students, when shown pictures of pretty women, were more likely to opt for short-term economic gain than wait for a better reward in the future. This is a remarkable test that they did. It's almost funny to show how powerful, how it takes over a man's mind just seeing a pretty woman. Both male and female students at McMaster University were shown pictures of the opposite sex of varying attractiveness taken from the website Hot or Not. The 209 students were then offered the chance to win a reward, and they could either accept a check for between $15 and $35 tomorrow, or won $50 to $75 at a variable point in the future. The experts found that male students shown the pictures of averagely attractive women showed exponential discounting of the future value of the reward, indicating that they had made a rational decision. Let me make that very clear in case you're missing it. When the male students were shown a picture of an averagely attractive woman and then afterwards offered, do you want a check for $15 to $35 tomorrow or $50 to $75 at a later date that they would note, then they would say, oh, I'll take the more money a little later. They were making a rational decision. Now let me continue. When male students were shown pictures of pretty women, they discounted the future value of the reward, indicating that they had made an irrational decision. Now, critical to understanding male-female difference, women, by contrast, made equally rational decisions, whether they had been shown pictures of handsome men or those of average attractiveness. So much, again, I tell you that of all the subjects, the one that has driven me the nuts my entire adult life, I mean since college, has been the line that men and women are basically the same, that men are taught to see women as sexual objects by Playboy and the like, but really it's a societally induced thing. It drives me nuts. Ignoramuses, people truly ignorant of male and female say that, or women who say, oh, come on, I'm not attracted to an attractive man. Of course you are. Of course. But there's no comparison in what it does. Also, the number of men who will turn a woman's head, stranger men, in other words, a man that she doesn't know from Adam, who will just have her, turn her head and confound her mind, is tiny. Where the number of women who do that to men, ask men. I mean, it's legion. I mean, the number is huge. This is a very good article because it is a good study, because it once again provides scientific proof for the obvious. And unfortunately, people who go to college are taught not to believe wisdom, not to believe common sense, not to believe their own life, but to ask, what do studies show? Okay? So for those of you who want to know what studies show that men's minds are easily confounded by the sight of a pretty woman, not to mention the rest of the female anatomy. And this is just the face that, presumably, when it says a pretty woman. The power of sight is uniquely male. The woman, the eye doesn't do to the woman. The ear does to the woman a lot of things. How he talks, how he smells. Those things, or in looks, is he clean? But a picture of a good-looking man, the woman is just going to continue the work that she is doing. It doesn't, whatever chemical or whatever it is reaction, it's not in the same universe. 1-8-Prager 776, 1-8-Prager 776. I'm going to give you more conclusions here, and you may want to react to them, because this is a very, if you could make a lot of fun out of this thing, as they do in the very first sentence, which I didn't read to you. The men are going to take a double turn on this, is what has been long suspected is finally established. In other words, it's not a light subject, believe it or not. It can be made into it because we don't want to acknowledge its seriousness. But the eye plays havoc with men, and therefore with women. Women sense it, sometimes know it, act on it, deny it, whatever it is, but its power cannot be overstated. That is why I'll give you two other factors, two other conclusions from this. That is why what women wear is of such extraordinary importance, because of the impact that it has on men. Now, I'm not saying we can't pass laws, and we shouldn't pass laws. And God knows, I think that the veil and the chador, these are dehumanizing things for women. But I'm not even taking a position. Well, I have a position, as many of you know. I think that a sober understanding of the effect of how I, as a woman, appear to men is critical. We need to soberly consider what will I want to show. But there is also another factor, and that is, I'll never forget, I was listening once to a talk show host. A woman had called in, said that she had found out that her husband was looking at sexy images on the computer. And the talk show host said, your husband is sick and needs help. Now, folks, there are religious reasons. There are a whole host of reasons not to involve oneself in those images. But it is not sick. Men look because that is the way we are programmed. And the power of it is not understandable by the female. You can't. Any more than a male can understand, I don't know, how many things go on in a woman's mind at one time. I don't think we can. It's not available to us because we are basically una-attentive. One thing at a time is what we attend to. But the power of the eye, that a man, I mean, this is an unbelievable study. An unbelievably important study. Guys will make irrational decisions financially just because they saw a pretty face. It wasn't even to get the woman. It was they've already got confounded in their thinking just by the look. Do you agree? Do you have any issue with what I am saying or this study? The power of the eye in men. You as a woman, does it bother you? Do you act on it? Do you understand it? Does this trouble you? Do you disagree? Do you think women have it the same way? 1-8-PRAGER-776, 1-8-PRAGER 776. A gay man in Honolulu on the line, and I know what he's going to say, and I'm going to let him say it because it will prove my point even further. 1-8-PRAGER-776, The Dennis Prager Show.
This episode of Timeless Wisdom will continue right after this. Sexploitation has killed more children on American soil than ISIS ever did. While we think our sons and daughters are safe from sexual predators and exploitation, they're being victimized right in our homes, in front of our own eyes, through their phones and computers. And until you watch this docuseries, Sexploited in America, the enemy will remain strategic, methodical, invisible, and deadly. Today, up to 90% of our children and families have already been captured, and you will not know until it's too late. In one case, a boy committed suicide just 27 minutes after he was contacted by this enemy. Rescue your children, protect your families, and defend our nation by watching and sharing the docuseries, Sexploited in America. Visit salemnow.com. That's salemnow.com. Or visit sexploitedfilm.com. www.sexploitedfilm.com. Now, back to more of Dennis Prager's Timeless Wisdom.
Dennis Prager here. I love it. It's Take 5. One of the great jazz things, one of the great gifts to my life in the last 5 years. Appreciation of a lot of jazz. Happy, optimistic, free music. Just a lot of it. I mean, a lot of it's junk. A lot of every music is junk. A lot of classical is junk, and that's my background. So, that's the way it goes. 1-8-PRAGER-776. This study that came out of a Canadian university is a good one. Showed guys and girls at the university, men and women. They showed them attractive, very attractive, and average-looking members of the opposite sex, and then tested their rationality on a very simple question that would determine how reasonable they were. The men lost a lot of their rationality after seeing pictures of pretty women. The women were completely unaffected by seeing pictures of attractive men, and the attractiveness was taken off a website that judges attractiveness of people. The power of the male eye, the female power, but not just female power, the proof that this isn't societal, but this is innate, comes from a call that I am about to take from Tim in Honolulu on KHNR. Tim, Dennis Prager, thank you for calling.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi.
Hey, I love Take 5 also.
Oh, how can you not? You just need ears.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm what you said, because I'm a gay man, and my head is turned when I see an attractive guy, and I think it is innate.
Exactly. Gay men are the proof that I always offer for male-female differences. That there is only one difference between you and me, sexually speaking, only one. The object of our attention, of that which attracts us, is a different sex. But in every other way, the gay man and the straight man are sexually the same. That is why, by the way, and I don't say this is not a negative comment, it is just a comment. It is far harder, I have to believe, for gay men to stay faithful to one another than for a straight man and straight woman.
Well, that's an ethical thing. I think that's individual.
Of course, it's always individual, but I'm saying it's harder because the male drive for variety, which you, the gay man, and I, the straight man, have, but I am curbed by the fact that I am married to a female, whereas you would be bonded to the extent that you would be to a man who has the same drive for variety.
That's true. that's true, but it's also a good argument for legalizing marriage to give.
Well, that's Andrew Sullivan's argument. We debated that, and I'm in his book. In fact, my essay. I don't. It is a good argument if the only purpose of marriage is to stop promiscuity, but it is not a good argument if part of the reason for marriage is to sanctify male-female relations. But I don't want to get into that because your call is extremely valuable for what it says. People need to understand the gay male looks at men the way the straight male looks at women. I mean, I see your journals. I have absolutely often perused them, and it is the pictures of the men are as sex objects. That's why women can't say that men. They say that all sex photos of women, this is misogyny. It is no more anti-female, those pictures of women, than it is anti-male, the pictures you like of men.
That's right. It can be degrading. But I also know a lot of women whose heads turn a lot faster than we might think. And maybe women are just less willing to admit it.
No, but this test was not about head turning. This test was the effects of seeing a particularly attractive member of the other sex on straight men and straight women, and the men's rationality ability declined. The women's were unaffected. So the fact that a woman's head will turn, and also it will turn because the male, what attracts her is how he walks, how he dresses. I mean, it is a very complex constellation of factors, whereas for the man, a picture is sufficient.
That's right.
Whereas for a woman, a picture is not sufficient.
Totally agree.
All right. Thank you for your call, Tim.
Sure.
I appreciate it. That, I'll tell you, anybody who ever argues with you about, well, these generalizations about male sexual nature, and they're just generalizations, and a lot of women are like that, and anyway, if men are like that, it was because it's a sexist society that portrays women as sex objects. How do you explain then gay men the way they look at men, which is identical? Identical. All righty, 1-800-PRAGER-776. And let's go to Cindy in Peoria, Arizona on KKNT. Hello, Cindy. Dennis Prager.
Hello.
Hi.
This is such an interesting topic. I finally realized how visually motivated men were about 3 years ago, and I'll tell you,
wait, and how old are you?
I'm 34.
Okay, so it took till 31.
Isn't that disgusting?
Well, I have a lot of comments on that, and I'll make them afterwards. How did it happen at 31?
Well, I'll tell you, I think it had a lot to do with the fact that I was taking my faith more seriously, and I know it sounds crazy, but reading the Bible and intensively, and realizing that God had a lot to say about women and men and how women dressed, and just the story like David and Bathsheba, things like that, and I guess I gave God more credit than I gave the other people in my life.
Well, I'll put it in a slightly different way. I absolutely believe that secular women are far more naive about male nature than religious women are.
Yes, that is absolutely true.
I would bet everything on it that secular women understand men less than religious women do.
Yes, I in my experience, that is very much the case, and I see that in my family, that the women in my family who do not have any religious conviction, they dress. Oh, I know they're not listening, so I can say they dress like whores. And the women in my family who love God, they dress in a way that shows that they also love men and respect their temptations.
Right, and it is because they are more willing to acknowledge the effect of how they dress on men.
Very much
That's
so.
right. That's what I mean. They know men better.
And, I'll tell you, this whole revelation has affected me in two very profound ways. And the first one is simply my relationships with men are so much better now. I dress modestly, and I can have such wonderful conversations with men, and they're not distracted.
Oh, I would ask a woman to do the following test. Obviously, a woman with from basically attractive to very attractive. I would ask her to do a test, and that is at work or anywhere else, to dress provocatively, and then to dress modestly. And by modestly, I don't mean to the ankles, and I don't mean to the wrists, and I don't mean to the neck,
Right.
and I don't mean in a bag.
Right.
Absolutely form-fitting. Let the world know you're a woman and be proud of that.
Right.
That's not an issue. But I would ask a woman to dress both ways and see how the world reacts to her under the same conditions where only her clothing has changed. Thank you, Cindy. It's an extremely important call. You've got to tell your daughters this. I will tell you why girls don't understand this. This has been my puzzle in life, and I have an answer. 1-8-PRAGER-776. You're listening to the Dennis Prager Show.
This episode of Timeless Wisdom will continue right after this. Sexploitation has killed more children on American soil than ISIS ever did. While we think our sons and daughters are safe from sexual predators and exploitation, they're being victimized right in our homes, in front of our own eyes, through their phones and computers. And until you watch this docuseries, Sexploited in America, the enemy will remain strategic, methodical, invisible, and deadly. Today, up to 90% of our children and families have already been captured, and you will not know until it's too late. In one case, a boy committed suicide just 27 minutes after he was contacted by this enemy. Rescue your children, protect your families, and defend our nation by watching and sharing the docuseries, Sexploited in America. Visit salemnow.com. That's salemnow.com. Or visit sexploitedfilm.com. www.sexploitedfilm.com. Now, back to more of Dennis Prager's Timeless Wisdom.
All right, my friends, this is the Dennis Prager Show. It's one of those things that is so important people don't like to acknowledge it. It is the power of the male eye, and it is incomparably more affected than the female eye. The female is affected through far more senses. And the male eye is again incomparably more powerful in its effect on the male than the female eye is on the female. This study, that's why I'm reporting to, because I'm always my view of most studies is either they're wrong or they confirm what we already knew. This confirms what we already knew, but it confirms it in a way that is so powerful that I thought I'd bring it to your attention. It's reported in the New Scientist. They showed men and women at college pictures of pretty members of the opposite sex as judged on the internet as such, and the males, as the pictures got prettier, made more and more irrational decisions on a very simple monetary matter, whereas the women were completely unaffected in their rational capacity. Now, women's reason is profoundly affected by when she is in love, or when she is emotionally caught up, or whatever it is in a man for other reasons. But we're talking now just about the power of looks. Here we have a 34-year-old woman just called and said she didn't realize this till 31, and she felt funny about it. And there are a lot of women who don't realize it at any age. And certainly girls don't understand this. There's no way they could. We understand the world through our own experience, but if you don't experience it that way, I mean, do the boys' legs at high school have the same effect on a girl in high school that girls' legs have on boys? Of course not. The idea is preposterous. Oh, my God, I got to have him. I saw his legs. I mean, the idea is idiotic. There is no comparable issue of power between the male and the female. When I talk about male sexual nature, and I do a great deal, and it's important, so important for women to understand this, and to understand that their husband is not sick if he's attracted to billboards and to pictures and so on. The issue of whether one should keep looking is a religious issue, is a psychological issue. That's separate, but it is not abnormal. Don't call a man sick who's not sick. And I have a great piece of advice, for example, for the guy who on a date can't stop looking around. I tell him you should sit in the restaurant and face the wall, Very simple. You have a just if you can't stop it, because there are guys who do it when they're out with guys. Forget that when they're out with. I have been at lunches with guys and I can't talk to them. I call them radar run, where the he's like a radar tower just moving from side to side. All righty, let's go to. By the way, do you agree? I made a very bold statement that I believe that in general, religious women understand men better than secular women do. I have said frequently that my grandmother, who never went to school, ever, had no schooling, understood men better than the average woman who gets a Ph.D. in sociology. And not just sociology, maybe even psychology. That is a good example, by the way, of why I think that there was so little wisdom at the universities. This is a classic example. You have all that studying, and you won't even acknowledge this basic difference between men and women. All right, Pepper Pike, Ohio, and Dan. Dan on WCCD. Hi.
Hi, Dennis. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make note of something. I happen to work a lot with some Orthodox Jews, and I noticed that one day that some of them have strings hanging out off the corners of their pants.
That's correct.
And I asked them about why is it, and they said one of the reasons why is because there's a biblical command not to run after your eyes, that you should see the strings and to remember
that is
the
exactly right.
And not to chase after your eyes. But it's interesting to note that Jewish women do not have the command
to
wear that. But
it's
only the men.
That's right. You're very
astute. They have an innate sense, like you're saying.
That's right, because women's eyes get them in trouble with more with objects than they do with men.
Exactly.
She will see a jewelry, she will see a home, and she will or clothing, and then she may compromise her values in order to get that.
Right, but it's all biblically based.
Yes, that's the whole point. See, many of you were raised at secular college and high school to think that the religious folks are out of it. Some are, there's no question, but in this society, it's more the secular folks who are out of it. We'll be back in a moment. All righty, everybody, talking about the power of the eye in men. This is a study that I reported to you. And we'll try to put, Alan, we'll try to put this up at the website there. It's a fascinating study. It's originally reported in newscientist.com. It comes from McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario. The men acting irrationally after just seeing pictures of pretty women. The women and seeing pictures of attractive men having no effect on their rationality whatsoever. Let's go to some of those who disagree or at least have different takes. Some don't. Anyway, we'll go to all types. Got good calls here. Let's go to JT in Phoenix on KKNT. Hi, JT.
Hey, Dennis.
Hi.
Say, I just think it's an interesting observation, simply that, and I don't know if this is supported biblically at all, but I have, in all the job interviews I've had in different jobs throughout my life, been offered jobs based on phone interviews by women twice, but never by a man. I always had to be seen. There always had to be a face-to-face meeting and interview process in that situation.
Whereas the men were hired on the phone. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm sorry. I have, in all my years of interviewing, I have on 2 occasions been hired based on a phone interview by a woman, but in never...
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. That is interesting.
My life have I been hired by a man without a face-to-face interview. Never.
But twice by a woman.
But twice by a woman.
Well, that is interesting. Because it is an absolute. I think it's a good example of a difference, but I think it's ought to hire anybody without seeing them, to be perfectly honest.
And yet 2 women have done it, and
I believe you. But the question is, with the men who it would be interesting. Would the men who insisted on seeing you also equally insist on seeing a man before they hired him? See, that would be an interesting question. Maybe the visual even in that case is important to men. But anyway, but it's a good example. I think it's a fair one. Thank you very much for that call. Let's go to Leslie in Manhattan Beach, California on KRLA. Hello, Leslie. Dennis Prager.
Hi, Dennis. I was prompted to call because your conversation with the woman in her 30s. First of all, I wanted to say it took her till she was in her 30s. I found out that men were visually affected when I was 13 and used to walk to school in my Catholic schoolgirl's outfit and noticed that grown men would stop in traffic. So why it took her that long to realize how men were visually affected, I don't really understand.
Well, it's interesting that you went to Catholic school. You went to Catholic school?
I went to Catholic school.
I believe that in traditional religious places, they teach about the concept of modesty and the effect of clothing on men more readily than at other places. And that may have been, you may have had already a thought process that enabled you to understand why they were stopping. I want to tell you something. I ran an institute for college-age kids for 7 years. They would spend the summers there in warm Southern California, and they could dress any way they wanted. And I remember a conversation with a girl of 19 or 20, who dressed very provocatively and had something to provoke with. And when we had our one-on-one meeting, I asked her, how's your summer going? And she opened up to me because they knew they could. And she said, well, I really feel the men don't relate to me as real. I think they relate to me as a sex object. And I said to her, do you think there might be any reason for that? And she said, I can't think of any. And I wanted to throw my chair at her.
Well, Dan, I got to tell you something. I got to disagree, because the reason I called is because I feel, what I want to say is, when a woman puts on a Victoria's Secret push-up bra, you act as if what you're saying, what I infer from what you're saying is she has no idea what she's doing to a man.
When a woman does that, you're right, obviously. But I want to tell you something. Right now, I tell you, half the women in this country are likely to say that they dress a certain way, or they have an enhanced breast operation or what have you, and has nothing to do with how they will look to men.
Dennis, what we say and what we really mean are two different things. No woman is going to come on the radio and tell you the truth.
Why not?
Why should she?
Why shouldn't she?
Women have bad natures, just like
I could agree with you. Both sexes have natures.
And what our nature says is, that's the man. I want him. I don't care what I have to do to get him.
I agree with you entirely. I do. But I'm telling you that there was a tremendous amount of self-denial on the conscious level. There is.
I don't agree.
The whole feminist thing is, men, we dress the way we want. You have nothing to say about it. We dress the way we want for our own reasons. And, if it bothers you, that's your problem.
But, Dennis, I never met a hardcore feminist woman who wore a push-up bra and short shorts.
Yes, but women don't wear push-up bras as general outdoors as much as they will as lingerie for their man. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the push-up bra, you're taking an extreme example. Just in the normally provocative clothing that is worn today by young women, if you interviewed the women and you gave them truth serum and you asked them, why are you wearing this? And I bet you on a conscious level, half of it would be they just want to look attractive. And they say, well, do you want to sexually excite men? No, that's not it.
Well, Dennis, they may not answer yes to, I want to sexually excite men. But if you ask a 14-year-old girl, when you wear hip huggers like that, do the boys pay attention to you? Yeah, they do. That's why I wear them.
Pay attention, yes. That's right, pay attention. Okay, but its effect on the male is not something that most girls, I would say 90% of girls, do not understand. By the way, they can't. I don't blame them. I blame parents for not teaching them.
Well, I got to choose to disagree with you because I remember being 13.
But as a Catholic school, and I already addressed that fact, and I'll tell you, there is something special about the Catholic school uniforms. I don't know what to tell you. Be that as it may, I really believe that because it was a Catholic school and they did teach these things, that may have been a factor in the way you understood why the cars were slowing down. Final segment on this. If you want to get in, 1-8-PRAGER is a great call. 1-8-PRAGER 776 18 Prager 776. Are women aware? Are girls aware of what I'm talking about? You're listening to the Dennis Prager Show.
This episode of Timeless Wisdom will continue right after this. What if everything you thought you knew about online exploitation was only the surface? The shocking docuseries, Sexploited, rips the veil off the digital darkness, destroying lives. You'll be stunned by what's uncovered in these real stories. Watch the trailers if you dare. Once you see it, you'll understand why silence is no longer an option. Visit salemnow.com and watch Sexploited in America. And visit sexploitedfilm.com. Now, back to more of Dennis Prager's Timeless Wisdom.
All right, everybody, let's get as many calls as possible here. Do women understand the power of man's eye and its effect on them when they're seeing women and the way they're dressed, etc.? Christina in San Diego is going to refute the last caller, I guess. Hi, Christina. Dennis Prager.
Hi.
Hi.
I just disagree with the woman that was last on. I just feel like, say, for example, this morning I was in sweats and a sweatshirt, a cute sweat outfit. But now I'm going out to lunch with my husband, and we're just going to go to the mall. And I feel better about myself when I feel like I have a pretty good figure. I'm 34 years old. I have 2 children. I feel great about myself. I want to, you know what? I'm proud of me. I'm going to put something on that says, I'm proud of me. It's not to make guys' tongues wag or to make women go, oh, God, do you see what she's got on? I have on form-fitting jeans, a nice fitted turtleneck. And you know what? It's all about how it makes you feel as a woman. If that's what makes you feel good about you and you're going to have a positive outlook on others and on life just by how you dress, then dress like that. And those 14-year-old girls that are wearing those hip huggers, good for them. They feel good about themselves. I mean, more women are going to the gym now. They're feeling better about themselves. You know, I just think that for other women or men to criticize women that wear things form-fitting and say they look like sluts or whatever, I think it's because that person doesn't feel good enough about themselves to put something on that says, look at me. Here I am. I've walked into the room. You can come talk to me.
Okay, I thank you. I've spoken so much. I just want to take calls there, but that is exactly what I argued to the last caller. That is what a lot of women will say. It has nothing to do with its effect on men, and they don't even know what the effect might be, and it is not of interest to them. Now, whether that is correct or not, or good or not, or bad or not, we have talked about good or bad, but I am telling you that a lot of girls today do not know the effect on men. I'm not saying Christina doesn't. I don't know if she does or doesn't. But she is saying, on any conscious level, I am doing it because this is the way I like the way I look. And that is why I'm saying there is in this, as in so much of life, there's a religious secular divide in understanding men and in having a sense of, well, wait a minute, if it does have effect B, if dressing in fashion A has effect A or effect B on men, the religious female is more likely to say, well, wait a minute, feeling good about myself can't be the only criterion for the way I dress, given the way it affects men. I'm not here to even advocate as much as I am to clarify. There is in this arena, and this is only a part of why I even raise this, as in so much else, a big division in this world between the secular outlook and what's called Judeo-Christian. You're listening to the Dennis Prager Show. Love your email at DennisPrager.com. Thanks for listening.
This has been Timeless Wisdom with Dennis Prager. Visit DennisPrager.com for thousands of hours of Dennis's lectures, courses, and classic radio programs, and to purchase Dennis Prager's Rational Bibles.